Welcome to the channel Cucuy, where nightmares don't wait for bedtime. These aren't just stories, they're warnings. 3 tales, 1 chance to look away. But you probably won't, because it's already watching. The Unanswered Call, the MacRae Disappearance. November 12th, 1976. A cold, dark night settled over the Scottish Highlands. It was a night that would forever be etched into the annals of unsolved mysteries. On this fateful evening, Renee MacRae, a 36-year-old woman, vanished without a trace. Her 3-year-old son, Andrew, disappeared alongside her. Their last known movements painted a picture of routine. Renee had dropped off her older son at her estranged husband's home. She then set off, driving south on the A9. Her supposed destination was Edinburgh, or perhaps her sister's house. But somewhere near the remote stretch of road by Dalmagary, their journey abruptly ended. The trail of Renee and young Andrew simply dissolved into the Highland night. Hours later, a chilling discovery was made. A train driver, peering into the darkness, spotted a vehicle engulfed in flames. It was a BMW burning fiercely in a remote lay-by. The scene was one of desolate destruction. Investigators arrived to find a charred shell. Inside, the upholstery was scorched beyond recognition. A rug, however, offered a grim clue. It was stained with blood, later confirmed to match Renee MacRae's blood type. Yet despite the evidence of violence, there were no bodies. No Renee, no Andrew. They were simply gone. The immediate aftermath brought forth unsettling accounts. Witnesses began to speak of strange sightings in the vicinity of the burning car. One described a figure seen dragging something heavy away from the scene. The location was near the Dalmagary quarry, a desolate and foreboding place. Another chilling detail emerged. Locals recalled seeing a man pushing a pram in that very same area. Renee had been wearing a distinctive sheepskin coat that night. Andrew, her young son, was bundled in a coat with a teddy bear lining. These were the last descriptions of their attire. They were the last glimpses of mother and child before they vanished into the unknown. As the investigation deepened, a hidden life began to surface. Renee MacRae, it was revealed, had been involved in a long-standing affair. Her lover was a local accountant named Bill McDowell. The affair was not merely clandestine, it held a profound secret. Andrew, the 3-year-old who disappeared with Renee, was almost certainly McDowell's son. This revelation added a new complex layer to the mystery. The police turned their attention to McDowell. He was a key figure, central to Renee's private world. But his cooperation was far from forthcoming. His statements were inconsistent, riddled with contradictions. McDowell's behavior raised immediate suspicion. He refused to fully engage with the police inquiry. His stories shifted, creating a narrative of evasiveness. One particular claim stood out in its strangeness. McDowell asserted that Renee had called him after her disappearance, a phone call from a woman who had vanished hours earlier. Yet he admitted he had forgotten to relay this crucial piece of information to the police, a detail of such magnitude simply overlooked. This lack of candor, coupled with the blood evidence in the car, painted a disturbing picture. The violence suggested by the blood pointed to a sinister act. The Dalmagary quarry became a focal point of the search. It was scoured repeatedly, meticulously. Investigators hoped to find remains, to bring some closure to the haunting disappearance. But the quarry yielded nothing. No bodies were ever recovered. Renee and Andrew remained lost, their fate a persistent, agonizing question. The case lingered for decades, a cold file that refused to be forgotten. It haunted the Scottish Highlands, a testament to an enduring injustice. Families waited, communities wondered, and the mystery deepened with each passing year. The passage of time only amplified the silence. Then, after more than 45 years, a breakthrough. In September 2022, Bill McDowell was finally brought to justice. He was convicted of the murders of Renee and Andrew MacRae, a verdict delivered after nearly half a century of waiting. The conviction brought a measure of legal closure, but the most profound questions remained unanswered. Despite the legal resolution, the bodies of Renee and Andrew were never recovered. Their final resting place remains unknown. The Highland mist still shrouds the truth of that night. The phone rings unanswered, the car burns in memory. Renee and Andrew MacRae never emerged from the darkness. Only questions, haunting and persistent, remain. The Vanished Voyager, the Amy Bradley Mystery. April 1998. A luxury cruise ship glides through the inky Caribbean waters. On board, a vibrant young woman, 23-year-old Amy Bradley, was enjoying a family vacation. The ocean stretched endlessly, a canvas of calm beneath a starlit sky. But as dawn broke, the tranquility shattered. Amy Bradley had vanished. She simply dissolved into the vastness of the sea, leaving behind only questions and an echoing silence. No distress calls, no alarms, no trace. Just an empty cabin and a family plunged into an unimaginable nightmare. The ship returned to port, full of passengers, but one soul was missing. That evening, Amy was described as joyful and engaging. She socialized freely, her laughter echoing across the decks. Witnesses recalled her dancing with an onboard entertainer, a man named Alistair Douglas. The night unfolded like any other cruise night, filled with music and camaraderie. Yet somewhere between the last dance and the first light, Amy was gone. The ship's logs offered no explanation. Surveillance footage, if it existed, captured nothing. There was no record of her leaving the vessel, no sign of struggle, no indication of foul play on board. Just an inexplicable void. Amy's family immediately launched their own desperate search. They scoured every deck, every cabin, every corner of the massive ship. Their pleas for help were met with confusion, then a chilling lack of answers. The FBI was eventually brought in, but the initial hours, crucial for any investigation, had slipped away. The vastness of the ocean became a cruel accomplice to the mystery. Every lead was pursued, no matter how faint. The family clung to any whisper, any possibility in their relentless quest for the truth. The silence from the sea was deafening. Years passed, but the case remained hauntingly open. Then whispers began to emerge from the Caribbean islands. Sightings, fragmented and contradictory, offered a glimmer of hope, or perhaps a deeper dread. Some claimed to have seen Amy in Curaçao or Barbados, a woman matching her description, wandering beaches appearing distressed. These were not just fleeting glimpses. A Navy veteran recounted a chilling encounter. He met a woman identifying herself as Amy, who confided she feared for her life. Another man described seeing someone like her drenched and terrified on a distant shore. These alleged sightings painted a disturbing picture. Was Amy alive, held against her will, or were these cruel mirages born of desperation and the passage of time? The family pursued every lead with unwavering resolve. A Netflix documentary, Amy Bradley is Missing, brought the case back into the spotlight. The family confronted cruise staff and entertainers, seeking answers, peeling back layers of half-truths. Alistair Douglas, the entertainer Amy danced with, became a focal point. His story, though denying wrongdoing, felt uneasy, riddled with inconsistencies that fueled suspicion. The family's dedicated website, a beacon of hope and information, began to record unusual activity. Traffic from Caribbean IP addresses, particularly on meaningful dates, offered a tantalizing possibility. Could these digital footprints be Amy herself, reaching out from isolation? Or were they simply curious onlookers, drawn to the enduring mystery? The hope was agonizingly real. The family clung to the belief that Amy had somehow survived, that she was out there somewhere alive but unreachable, trapped across the blue horizon. More than 2 decades have now passed since Amy Bradley vanished. The ocean has kept its secrets, offering no body, no definitive answers. The case remains open, a cold file in a world that has moved on. But for Amy's family, time has stood still. They live with the agonizing uncertainty, the constant ache of not knowing. Every wave that crashes on a distant shore could hold a clue. The cruise ship sailed on, but the shadow of Amy's disappearance lingers. A ghost ship of mystery, forever sailing the waters of the unknown, carrying the weight of an unresolved dread. The unseen shadow of Maupin Creek. The summer of 1983 held a promise of carefree days in Montana. On June 25th, the Helena National Forest buzzed with life. Families gathered for picnics, their laughter echoing through the trees. Among them was 4-year-old Nyleen K. Marshall. She played with family and friends, a vibrant spark in the sun-dappled woods. The air was warm, filled with the scent of pine and possibility. Nyleen, with the innocent curiosity of a child, wandered ahead. Her small steps led her towards a cluster of beaver dams. They were nestled near the gentle flow of Maupin Creek. She was just moments from the main picnic area. Then, in an instant, the world shifted. Nyleen Marshall vanished forever. Earlier that afternoon, a chilling detail emerged. Eyewitnesses recalled seeing Nyleen. She was speaking to a man. He was dressed in jogging clothes, a figure out of place in the family setting. The children, returning to where Nyleen had been playing, found only an empty space. The laughter died in their throats. A cold dread began to spread through the picnic grounds. Panic quickly set in. A child was missing. The forest, once a place of joy, now seemed to hold a sinister silence. The alarm was raised, and the response was immediate and overwhelming. A massive search operation began. Divers plunged into the cold waters of the creek. Hundreds of volunteers scoured the rugged terrain. The FBI joined the desperate effort. Even parishioners from the local LDS church mobilized, their faith fueling their determination. They combed every inch of the vast forest. Abandoned mine shafts, dark and foreboding, were meticulously explored. No stone was left unturned, no crevice unexamined. Yet, despite the immense resources and tireless efforts, Nyleen was nowhere to be found. The forest yielded no clues, only an agonizing silence. Years passed, but the mystery of Nyleen's disappearance remained. Then a new horrifying chapter began. Anonymous calls and letters started to arrive. The sender claimed to be Nyleen's abductor. He asserted that she was safe, that she had traveled the world with him. A glimmer of hope, however faint, might have flickered. But his words quickly turned to ice. The messages detailed horrific sexual abuse. They painted a picture of unimaginable suffering, shattering any illusion of safety. Nyleen's family and law enforcement received these disturbing communications. They desperately tried to trace the sender. Yet he remained elusive, a phantom voice in the darkness. The identity of this cruel tormentor was never discovered. Nyleen herself remained lost, her whereabouts unknown. The letters offered only pain, not answers. The weight of Nyleen's disappearance was immense. In 1994, the Marshall family made a difficult decision. They relocated overseas, perhaps seeking a fresh start, a new horizon. But tragedy continued to stalk them. In 1995, Nyleen's mother was brutally murdered in Mexico. Her life, already burdened by an unbearable loss, was cut short. This compounding grief was a cruel twist of fate. A mother who had spent years searching for her child was denied any chance of closure. Her hopes were extinguished before they could ever be realized. Then, in 1997, a fragile thread of hope emerged. A nurse in New Orleans reported a strange encounter. She had seen a young woman admitted to a hospital. The woman called herself Helena. She spoke without any discernible accent. Her reason for admission was to give birth, a new life entering the world. Before staff could ask more questions, before any connections could be made, she vanished. Just like Nyleen, she disappeared without a trace. For the Marshall family, this was a tantalizing possibility. Could this Helena be Nyleen? Hopes, long dormant, were suddenly rekindled. But the lead went cold. The woman was never found. The brief flicker of hope was painfully extinguished, leaving only the familiar ache of uncertainty. As of 2017, decades after that fateful picnic, no solid leads have emerged. The case of Nyleen Marshall remains open, a haunting question mark. The forest, silent and indifferent, holds its secrets close. It is a story of a missing letter from a global life, a child's future, stolen in an instant, leaving behind only a void. A mother's hopes, snuffed out before closure was ever possible. The wind still whispers through the trees in Helena National Forest, but for those who remember Nyleen, it carries only the echo of a child's laughter, forever lost. The Beaumont children disappearance. January 26, 1966, dawned bright and clear over Glenelg Beach, South Australia. It was Australia Day, a time for sun, sand, and carefree celebration. For the Beaumont family, it began like any other summer holiday. 9-year-old Jane, 7-year-old Anna, and 4-year-old Grant were given permission to walk to the beach. It was a short, familiar journey, one they had made many times before. Their parents, Jim and Nancy, watched them go, expecting their return by midday. The children carried some money, enough for a few treats. They were independent, trusted to navigate their small world. This ordinary morning would soon unravel into an extraordinary nightmare. The Beaumont children were last seen strolling past Wenzel's bakery. They purchased a meat pie, a detail that would later become profoundly unsettling. Their mother had only given them enough for small sweets, not a substantial meal. They paid with a £1 note, a sum far exceeding what they were given. This unexplained money immediately raised questions. Where did it come from? Who gave it to them? Witnesses later reported seeing the children with a fair-haired man. He was described as being in his mid-30s, with a thin face and a sun-tanned complexion. He seemed to engage them in conversation, perhaps with a charming facade. This stranger was seen interacting with the children, seemingly at ease. The image of them together, a man and 3 small figures, would forever be etched into the public consciousness. It was a moment of innocent interaction that concealed a terrifying truth. Midday came and went, but the children did not return home by bus. 2 o'clock passed, and still there was no sign of Jane, Anna, or Grant. A cold dread began to settle over Jim and Nancy Beaumont. Their initial concern quickly escalated into frantic panic. They contacted police, and a search was immediately launched. What began as a family's desperate plea soon ballooned into a statewide effort. The media descended, cameras flashing, headlines screaming. The phrase "sex crime now feared" echoed across the nation. Yet, despite the overwhelming attention, the children had simply vanished. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed them whole. The bustling beach, the familiar streets offered no answers. The vibrant energy of Australia Day gave way to a chilling silence. Weeks turned into months, and the mystery deepened. Then a new, agonizing chapter began with the arrival of letters. They were purportedly from Jane, claiming she and her siblings were with the man. The letters spoke of their well-being and promised their imminent return. They even suggested a meeting point, a specific location where the children would be dropped off. Hope, fragile and desperate, flickered to life for the Beaumonts. Jim and Nancy went to the designated spot, their hearts pounding with a mixture of terror and anticipation. They waited and waited, but no children appeared. Only the crushing weight of disappointment remained. Years later, in 1992, forensic analysis delivered a final devastating blow. Fingerprint evidence revealed the letters were a cruel, elaborate prank. A now middle-aged hoaxer was identified, but no charges were laid. The passage of time had rendered justice impossible. The Beaumont disappearance cast a long, dark shadow over Australia. Over the decades, numerous theories and suspects emerged, each offering a glimmer of hope, then fading into the pervasive mystery. One prominent figure was Arthur Stanley Brown, a convicted child murderer. His modus operandi and history of violence made him a compelling person of interest. However, no definitive link to the Beaumont case was ever established. Another name that surfaced repeatedly was Harry Phipps, a wealthy local businessman. He matched witness descriptions of the fair-haired man seen with the children. Disturbingly, Phipps was known to pay local children to dig holes in his yard, a detail that fueled dark speculation. Despite extensive investigations and the tireless efforts of law enforcement, no one was ever charged in connection with the children's disappearance. The suspects remained just that, suspects, never proven to be the perpetrators. The truth remained elusive, hidden in the depths of time. The vanishing of Jane, Anna, and Grant Beaumont shattered Australia's collective innocence. Before 1966, children were often allowed a freedom that seems unimaginable today. The world felt safer, more predictable, This case fundamentally reshaped parenting practices across the nation. The idea of children walking alone, even short distances, became fraught with anxiety. A generation of parents learned to fear the unknown, to hold their children closer. The Beaumont mystery remains one of Australia's most enduring and haunting cold cases. It is a story whispered in hushed tones, a stark reminder of vulnerability. The image of three smiling children walking towards an unknown fate continues to resonate. Their disappearance is more than just a true crime story. It is a historical marker. It signifies a profound shift in a nation's psyche, a moment when the carefree spirit of summer gave way to a pervasive sense of unease. The questions linger, echoing through the decades, a somber testament to a mystery that refuses to be forgotten. Still here. You made it through, this time. But the channel Cucuy isn't done with you. He feeds on curiosity. And you're already hooked. Subscribe before he finds someone else.